Today on the Truth Hour, the latest on the New York terror attack, inside the ongoing details of that, the diversity visa program, how the terrorists got into the country a number of years ago. Also, further details unraveling here on Uranium One, Mueller's indictments, the Podesta Group, and Papadopoulos.
And how about removing George Washington from Christ's Church out in Virginia? And of course, we're going to get into a little more of the dossier dealing with the Clintons and $10 million here on the Truth Hour.
What kind of a show you guys put on? I want the truth!
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm Shane Jameson. This is Dave Deagle. We're joining you today on this Thursday for another episode of the Truth Hour, Political Insight with Principle. Another jam-packed session, folks. I don't even know where to start, Dave. Basically, we kind of have a lineup here. The New York.
Well, first, before we get into anything, let's do some plugging. How's that?
Oh, let's do some plugging.
And then you can think about it for a quick second. We always appreciate you guys joining us here on the Truth Hour every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. And if you can, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Anytime you want to chat in with us, make sure you chat in, ask questions, provide some feedback, and we thank you, TM Skills, for being with us this morning.
TM Skills.
And if you have questions and you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, I don't think I've got commenting turned on to our live stream. However, you can always email us at truthhourradio@gmail.com. truthhourradio@gmail.com.
Awesome, Dave. Awesome, Dave. Thanks for the plugs. We will go ahead and dive in here. So, top the list here this morning would be the latest details on the terrorist attack that took place in New York. The one thing I forgot to do, Dave, when I was doing my intel on this, the gentleman's name. I guess I could Google it really quick, but
I don't really care what the guy's
it's almost
name
worthy
is.
not even doing anything. I mean, I don't want to give the guy a plug.
No.
So this worthless terrorist.
I think that's the way to put it. He's a worthless terrorist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The real key here, I mean, we can debate. I mean, I really hate getting long-winded on these things. I mean, the fact is this individual committed an act of terror in this country. He mowed down upwards of a dozen or more people, killed 8 as of today's date, and there's a couple in critical condition and a number of others injured. So, I mean, that is what it is. So, I guess the next option to talk about is, how did we get to this point? Right? How did we get to here? How did he get, to this country, and how did he get to the point where he decided that committing this act of terror was something he wanted to do?
All a wonderful government program
called
that kind of ushered these things in.
Yeah.
Sometimes we call it the green card program, but this is kind of the fast track of green card program, the diversity visa program. And that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's a fast track for people who are from countries that typically do not immigrate to the United States.
Yeah.
And so there are, here I think for 2017, there were 50,000 of these fast-track visas that were handed out. And so if you're from a country who doesn't have a reputation of people who are immigrating to the United States, you have an ability to be swiftly brought in to our country.
Right. Yeah, through what is basically, in layman's terms, a lottery program for immigration. And what happens is you enter for this possibility of winning this lottery, and then if that's not, I mean, let's be real. We are a country of immigrants. We've been through this. We've touched base. We've had, long segments on immigration. I'm pro-immigration. We are a country of immigrants, so I'm not anti-immigrant.
No.
I am for proper immigration, where it is done lawfully, vetted properly, and people that we finally get to the end game want to come here and assimilate and be a part of this country, not bring radical ideologies and things that are contradictive to this Constitution, right?
Absolutely.
So this is a lottery program. This gentleman won this lottery, and here's the other part of this onion. you win the lottery on this,
Mm-hmm.
and then you basically get to bring all your extended family and friends. So I believe this terrorist, at the time when he won this lottery a number of years back, was selected, and then he actually got to, basically offer up his, I think, almost 24 individual family members and friends that are extended, and they all collectively got to come over.
I would question if these people were actually family members
Or friends, right?
Right.
Yeah.
or they were known acquaintances who had the same terroristic ideologies
Right.
that he has, and what the loss of life is horrible. That this kind of thing happens, and through this, there's so many political things that will come out of it.
Already are.
But the dude is armed with a pellet gun and a paintball gun.
As he exits, right.
Yes,
after
as
the
he
wreck.
comes out of
Yeah.
the truck. But he uses the truck as a way of
Mhm.
means to mass murder
Right.
people. And from what I heard, that he even had plans to kill a lot more. His blueprint, his map, was to make it further to, I believe it was the Brooklyn Bridge.
Wow.
Is what I heard. And so he was just going to maul people over with this Home Depot truck and kill hundreds.
Wow.
This very same way. But
And on-
thank the good Lord, he ended up colliding with another vehicle
Yeah.
that stopped his reign. And now that he's sitting in a hospital room,
Mm-hmm.
and he is proud of what he's done. He has requested an ISIS flag
Right.
to be put into his room, and he's gloating
Yeah.
of this. And
Right.
my Christian side says, here is a soul who is lost. Here is a soul who is under the grasp of Satan, and he needs Jesus, right? And he needs to be taught the truth of Jesus, and he needs to be converted to Christianity, and so that he can have a hope of salvation. But I tell you what, my man side, my human side, just ended.
Yeah.
Our tax money is going to go into prosecution.
And
Tax money
defense.
that's going to go, and defense.
And there is none.
Why should there be?
Yeah.
And the tax money is going to go into housing this dog
Yep.
in prison
Yeah.
for hopefully all of his life.
Or a death penalty. They're going to push for that too. I mean,
Well,
which is
New York
actually-
doesn't have a death penalty, do they?
Yeah, there was something they were talking about on Fox today, and let's go into that, Dave. It's a great point. All great points. But here's another thought, right? So, if this gentleman was replaced and was placed over into a combat zone, in a place, a theater of war, and was committing those same atrocities with any weapon, fill in the blank, to kill Americans, if he was captured like he was here, he would, in most instances, would go to Gitmo. Okay,
Right.
we've got another situation that's
And
basically
wouldn't really be afforded due process.
due process and American rights, because he's not an American citizen.
Technically, no. Right.
But I'm saying on this other situation I was talking about, where special ops actually caught somebody that had to do with the Benghazi attack a few years back, right, when our ambassador Stevens got killed.
Right.
But anyway, so instead of them taking him, this gentleman from the Benghazi, all the way down to Gitmo, where he deserves to be, basically bypassing due process, not affording him the rights by our court system, this guy and also the Benghazi guy and this latest terrorist attack suspect is going to be given due process in the court of law. And here's the other thing. This gentleman, or excuse me, he's not a gentleman. This terrorist has stated he is a enemy combatant. He is doing this for ISIS. At what point, when somebody acknowledges these certainties in their own right, do we then have a process? I mean, shouldn't we expedite that and then strip them of their rights? I mean, is that a slippery slope? Because then we could basically say that about anybody, right? We don't want to have that happen erroneously.
Right.
What do you think about that, Dave? In
Now,
other words,
I guess the big question is,
Morning, Lauren.
as and an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
They are afforded to us rights through our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. But is he technically a citizen? And I don't believe so. I believe from all that I've seen that he is just has this pass, right?
We're talking about the terrorist attack?
Right.
Yeah.
This terrorist attack here. And so as somebody who is just here, legal.
Well, he's an official
Legally.
legal citizen of the country as of the date of this attack. He had.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if the visa just allowed him to be here in the United States legally to be here, but
Under
still
some,
a citizen of
Yeah.
Uzbekistan.
Under like some kind of like quote unquote temporary status. And
Right.
It's not
Work.
officially concrete. Yeah,
Work.
he's a concrete.
Work
He
visa.
is. As far as what I've seen, Dave, he is as concrete a citizen as what anybody would consider myself or you. So that's where it gets slippery. How can you take somebody that's been radicalized in the country, chosen to take off and do this act, and then, basically is denouncing his citizenship? That's what he's doing. That's no different than
absolutely.
giving up your American rights and moving to Canada or across overseas, right?
Right.
So
I mean, he's not pledging allegiance to Uzbekistan or pledging allegiance
pledged
to
allegiance,
Russia, but
right.
it's to terror, to ISIS.
Morning, Lauren. Yeah, good to see you, buddy. So I mean, we can go into this a lot more. Yet again, the Dems have turned this political, and naturally, and here's, this gets slippery in one aspect that the left wants to take and dismantle any efforts by the Trump administration to further travel bans and to vet properly and to put these individuals in this whole situation where, we are just, loosey-goosey letting any, Tom, Dick, or Harry into this country. They have been obstructionists and roadblocks. And then here we go. And, Chuck Schumer was a prime suspect or a prime advocate, of this diversity visa program. You could lay this at his feet. How many other radicals are in this country because of that are just sleeper cells or Trojan horses waiting to do something in the future?
And more of these things are going to continue on because of these laws like this who've made it so easy for that to come over and for that to happen. And it does not protect the citizens of this country who are the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens.
Right.
And it's all over this idea of this. And, I hate to say it, but this lovey-dovey, we got to bring everybody to the United States. Well, we can't.
No. Nor should we not.
Right.
Right. And good morning, Cheyenne. My daughter's joining us, so that's great.
Awesome.
Let's get back to it here. So, how much more we want to devote to this? I mean, we really have a lot of other topics, Dave. This is very important. It did happen, and our prayers and condolences and thoughts go out to the families and the victims. But it's onward and upward. We need to address the underlying problem, which is the ongoing immigration problem in this country needs to be addressed. To speak of anything else is just a Band-Aid fix. We need to properly vet, scrutinize, and make certain that people are coming here not out of their. It should not be a lottery system. It should be an immigration policy of merit. In other words, you come here on your merit, and we confirm through a proper, lengthy vetting process that you are what you say you are and who you say you are. Period.
Absolutely. Background checks. Who your acquaintances are, what you've done,
your ties
through all these years.
Yes.
So that when you come over here, you're not a trained murderer.
Yeah, just waiting for your time. Now,
Absolutely.
And here's the other thing, real quick, before we pivot. From what I've been told and what I've learned is this gentleman, I mean, for all intents and purposes, for the first number of years that he was a resident and a citizen of this country, he came here and made the most of his life. I think there's reports. I mean, he was at the end part of his, in the latter part of the last number of months or years, he was an Uber driver. Okay, but before that, he actually had an established business or two businesses, a trucking company. Okay, I don't know exactly what the status of those are, but he's got a family here. He's embraced the capitalist system. He's gotten a business. How can somebody go from being rewarded the best? It is a lottery ticket for somebody that has the kind of freedoms that they didn't have to come to this country to embrace the freedoms that he currently had, to then turn on this country And they found on his device, once again, the MO that these terrorists end up having that are radicalized, tons of videos, beheadings, brutal murders by ISIS and all this other stuff. But you know what? He was given every chance.
Yeah.
So I have no sympathy.
I guess here is a big question then. Was he radicalized in Uzbekistan and
Pretended.
then played all
Yeah,
this to
played
come
all
to
of
the
it.
United States to, plan this out? Lawrence says he had gotten his green card back in 2010, so, roughly 7 years ago. Or was it, he had that American dream, right? And he came over
And then he was turned.
fulfilling the, and then,
Yeah.
was indoctrinated
Great
while
points.
here by some other people.
Awesome points Dave makes on that but here's another conundrum. This guy didn't fit the typical profile, right? Even though he wasn't properly vetted and he had a fast track to this country. Did you know, supposedly, they didn't go to, he doesn't have a digital footprint. Kind of reminds you of Paddock, right, in Vegas. He didn't
Right.
have a digital footprint. He didn't have a huge Facebook presence. Apparently none. I don't know. They said as of right now he didn't. But they did find on his cell phone all of this other stuff, this digital footprint of this, this radical jihad type memorabilia and photos and videos that has, it's obvious. You watch that kind of filth long enough, you're going to embrace something. But you have to have the
absolutely.
desire to want to watch that stuff to begin with. I don't believe in radicalization. You want to know why, Dave? You're either inherently evil or you're either inherently a good, caring, loving person. I really don't believe that. I don't believe that you just somehow overnight wake up one day from being a good, decent, moral, principled person, as far as the world would say, and then all of a sudden you're a 180 of that. I think that you were probably a small fraction of that all along,
Had those
and then embraced
tendencies.
it.
Had those tendencies for...
It starts with a desire, right? Doesn't all sin start that way?
Well, it does.
Yeah.
That's what James argues, that, sin comes from our hearts. And then it grows from our hearts and from our own desires, those temptations, and then gives into sin. And Cheyenne, I know, that's another one of my struggles. I always thought, when I was younger, I was kind of teased about the, how the people are going to be divided.
Yeah.
For those people who are going to heaven, those people who are going to hell. And I always joked. I was like, hey, I'm going to look down that line and see if, Jeffrey Dahmer or one of these, historically evil people are, what side they're on. And if they're on that side, then I'm good. But then I think it was Jeffrey Dahmer that I'm thinking of.
Wow, there's a topic.
Repented, right?
Yeah, he was killed in prison.
He was baptized, and he became from what we can tell, a
Right.
true repentant follower of Christ.
Right.
And then subsequently was killed in prison. And so I look at that like, man, that's somebody who is a horrible, sinful person. But then,
The grace of God covered him, hopefully,
yeah.
if his heart was repentant.
and that's one thing we can't make that judgment, because it might have been, he was just trying to get out of prison. We don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
did you scroll down on chat? There we go. Okay. Yeah, real quick, I'm going to reference, so good point there, TM Skills. We can talk about this all day long till we're blue in the face. The problem is Islam. This religion is not an inspired religion, a divinely inspired. It is a manly, an earthly inspired religion. It invokes hate. It invokes taking up the sword against the infidels. And anybody that isn't either converted or pulled over to the Islamic side, you're basically ordered to kill them.
Yes.
It's in the Quran. Look it up. I'm tired of people saying, and you got a moderate Muslim, you got an extremist. So you don't say that about Christianity. If you call me an extreme Christian, what does that mean? I love people
You
even
love
more?
Pope more. That's right.
If you're an extreme Muslim, you're actually following Islam to the letter of the law
Right.
per the Quran.
Right.
So to be a moderate Muslim actually means that you're not following your religion.
And-
so let's make
right.
no mistakes and quit lying about this. Islam is a death religion, death to the infidels, Sharia law, period.
And anybody that says it is a peaceful religion is either naive, ignorant, or a liar.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, you go to those any quick Google search, you'll come across verses of the Quran that orders the murder, the torture of those who will not convert.
And you're given a pass
Islam.
on that, basically through their text in their writings through the Quran. You're given a pass if you commit those if it's not an atrocity in Islam to then basically exterminate the unbeliever. You are given basically accolades for that.
Absolutely.
In their worship, and it's a joke.
Yeah, and you're better off, right? Because you don't know, and that's one of the things we did this whole lengthy class on Islam and Christianity. And one of the craziest things is, with Christianity, there's 1 John chapter 5. He says, "I'm writing to these things so that you can know, right, of your eternal salvation." And and so if we follow God's word, we can know, right, that because of God's grace that we have salvation. But when you look at Islam, the idea is you have no idea if you can be, with Allah, saved and have these, 70 virgins, unless you do something like this where you die in a jihad.
And find good graces.
Right. And if you die in jihad, and then absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what you get. And so, for somebody who's contemplating death, well, if I'm suicidal, I better not be suicidal, but I can be terroristic.
I can be a martyr.
Absolutely.
Yeah, under Islam, I could be a martyr and go out in a blaze of glory. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a lot more stuff here, Dave, so let's I think we really did a good job on this one. So, we'll transition here.
Where you want to go?
Let's go to uranium and Mueller's indictments, the Podesta Group, and Papadopoulos, which is another Trump.
I love that name.
Yeah, say that 10 times and
if I had a name like Papadopoulos, I'll change it to David. A little easier to say. All right, what you got, brother?
Yeah, so on the guys, the new developments there on the Uranium One situation. Special prosecutor appointed. Mueller has made his first, basically a salvo, right? He has come out with his first indictments for 3 individuals. Trying to remember their names all of a sudden. Yeah, so yet to be indicted, soon to be indicted, I believe, and from what I've heard, is going to be the Podesta Group. This all ties back into Paul Manafort. I'm scatterbrained this morning. So Paul Manafort was the main one of the indictment. There was another kind of a lower individual underneath him that was indicted as well, and then also this Papadopoulos individual that is about a 29 or 30-year-old. He was an advisor early on in the days of the Trump campaign. Guys, we got to realize how all those things work. In the infancy of a campaign, and as a presidential nominee is basically getting their feet under them, there's a lot of turnover in a campaign and in your staff.
Yeah.
You don't know who people are exactly. You've got all these people; they look like they'll fit the mold. You put them in a place of authority, and then you have to, as time and as people come up and information and fact come out, you have to. And these people are being vetted. It's an ongoing. Prove yourself as you go, and they're either accepted or they're kicked out. Well, Papadopoulos wasn't there long enough to basically get his a cup of warm coffee, but he was there long enough to be considered by Mueller and his team to have some kind of relevance to this supposed Russian collusion story, that they have brought up the fact that sometime in the spring of this year he was actually arrested by the FBI and charged with lying to the FBI, which now the new conspiracy is, or there's a lot of truth behind it, they think that since it wasn't made public that he was arrested by the FBI for lying, that he's been basically flipped and turned state's evidence or turning governmental evidence, and maybe have been wearing a wire the last 4 to 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's pretty shady, but let's, the Manafort, so he's brought in. The funny thing on these indictments, guys, you can read these things. Here's what I'm scared about. Mueller was brought in as a special prosecutor for one reason. The umbrella and the parameters, when you bring in a special prosecutor, you're given parameters, you're given borders. You cannot go outside of that. His parameters were simple. Basically, the keywords was Trump, campaign, Russian collusion. Okay.
Right.
You look at this indictment to Manafort and his cohorts, he is well outside those parameters. In fact, in the indictment, there's no mention of Russia, really. There's mention of Ukraine and Manafort's lobbying efforts for Ukraine, but there is absolutely no ties, no word that mentions Trump, his campaign, Russia, and there's the main word, nothing about collusion. So what is he even doing indicting these people? Well, it's pretty simple. It's pretty bad when he can go below and underneath the underbelly of his scope and parameters to find somebody that's done something wrong possibly in another area, only to then squeeze on them and say, hey, you're facing some pretty major time here from possible money laundering, some other issues, not registering as, an agent of a foreign power. There's, I think, a lot of things that are going with Manafort. And then they're going to use him to squeeze and say, but we'll lessen your sentence if you know anything about the Trump campaign and this collusion story. Well, I mean, you get what I'm saying? It's almost unethical and not even in his parameters. And then you go back to this fake dossier that this whole investigation was predicated on. And to think that unmasking probably took place, FISA warrants were probably issued, all of this, and now the special prosecutor with Mueller has this ongoing investigation, all of this predicated on a fake dossier paid for by the DNC and the Clintons and Obama and a few others, the Podestas probably, to Fusion GPS, to then go and use Russian underlings to then pull basically fake fruit off the trees and put together some kind of official-looking document. It's then pushed and sold to various outlets, and then it's basically organically came out of thin air. How can you have an investigation that's predicated on that? Everything that's going on right now is based on fake evidence, as far as it pertains to Trump and Russia, because there is none.
Now, can the outcome of this be with these indictments? So with the indictments, you're going to investigate the person. You're going to question them. That the outcome would be that Trump had no hand in these things at all. And then we start looking at the other portions of that dossier and start to investigate Clinton and her campaign. So hopefully that's the way it takes. You bring in all these people, you clear them. Okay, then what is the truth of the matter? And TM Skill says, I hope Mueller investigates Clinton and the DNC. Because of the corruption that has been going on there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and basically that Donna Brazile, good point too. TM Skills, I watched a piece on this first thing this morning while I was drinking my coffee on Fox. I wasn't on Fox. I'd love to be on Fox. It's my dream, but sitting on my couch drinking coffee, watching Fox.
We're talking about the truth hour.
Truth
the
hour,
truth comes out. That's exactly
was
what.
Was that a white lie?
This is a stepping stone.
Oh my gosh, it was a white lie.
How does that make y'all feel? This is a stepping stone. He plans to get to Fox News eventually in all these years.
Yeah. So yeah, great. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Dave. So, anyways, Donna.
Love you.
Yeah, I love you too, brother. So Donna Brazile drops a bomb too. There's a piece in I can't remember where the piece is. It skips my memory, but maybe you got it listed in your deal there, TM Skills. But she comes out and drops a bombshell saying she knows that there's proof that Hillary had it in against Bernie Sanders, and the fix was in back during the campaign for on the DNC side against Bernie Sanders, and the fix was in for Clinton to get the nomination, and there was no way in heck that was going to happen. And one of the women that was a staunch advocate for covering all this up has come out and flipped, and now she's telling the truth. And I don't know if there's all this is on the up and up, but I'm telling you what, she's ratting on a lot of the individuals, including Clinton and the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and all these individuals that had the fix in against Bernie.
I just wonder how much Bernie was paid off to keep his mouth shut.
Well,
and not come out with, hey, they steamrolled me.
Yeah.
Because the way that
you know what? Here's what was going to happen. I can tell you what was going to happen. Thank the good Lord she didn't win, but if she would have won the nomination, became the president of the United States, the thoughts were that since there was the fix against Bernie and the DNC basically fast-tracked the Clinton campaign to make sure she was going to be the nominee, if she would have won the presidency, the rumor is that she would have brought in Bernie. He would have been a pretty high-level official inside the Clinton campaign. Or excuse me, the Clinton administration.
Since Bernie didn't have any
here's a consolation prize, man. We basically, we screwed you out of this, and we're going to hand you here's an olive branch. Take that. That's hilarious.
There you go.
What else here?
What video we want to bring up here?
Let's play. We're on that dossier stuff. We're on the fusion stuff. Let's play Tucker's portion of it. Guys, we're going to play Tucker Carlson's snip here about the true Russian scandal. It's a pretty long video, so Dave, we might actually pro-edit it as we go and skip forward to some of it, or we might just play a portion of it. So guys, y'all listen into this.
There we go, brothers.
All right, here we go, guys. Listen up.
Now I gotta hit play again. How many times do I gotta hit play?
I can't hear it.
Hey, quit.
Ain't no sound, brother.
Why isn't there any sound? Hold on. See, here we go.
I've seen in 25 years. As of course you've heard, independent counsel Robert Mueller's investigation has zeroed in on its first targets. Today, former Donald Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort and his business associate Rick Gates were both indicted on charges of money laundering, tax fraud, and failure to report lobbying arrangements. Now, the indictment, among other things, offers tantalizing details about how foreign lobbying actually works at the highest levels in Washington, how Manafort allegedly used laundered offshore cash to buy Range Rovers, expand his wardrobe, somehow spend $655,000 on landscaping for his house in the Hamptons. Manafort's indictment comes as, honestly, no surprise to anyone who's been in Washington for a while and has watched him operate, though, of course, the legal system will make the final call on that. It's pretty clear, though, that Paul Manafort is just the first in a series of people in D.C. who are suddenly in deep, deep trouble. Who's next? Well, reading between the lines of the indictment and talking to a number of our own sources, we think we've got a pretty good idea of that. Keep in mind that today's indictment never mentions Donald Trump's presidential campaign or the 2016 election. It only mentions Russia in passing, even though Russian meddling was the pretext for this investigation in the first place. Instead, the indictment catalogs Manafort's efforts to lobby on behalf of pro-Russia groups in Ukraine. The indictment goes into great detail on the relationship between Manafort and two mysterious groups described in the document as Company A and Company B. Those companies, we can report tonight, are Mercury LLC, that's led by former Republican Congressman Vin Weber, and the Podesta Group, founded by Tony Podesta and his brother John, whom you'll remember as Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman. None of this will come as a shock to viewers of this show. Last Tuesday, we told you that the Mueller investigation is no longer primarily a search for Russian collusion in the 2016 race. It is now a much far-reaching inquiry into corrupt lobbying practices across D.C., one that is very likely to ensnare figures close to Hillary Clinton. In press accounts, Mueller's investigation is still framed as a hunt for collusion between Donald Trump's presidential campaign and the government of Russia. Our source says investigators are, in fact, very interested in Manafort's behavior while he ran the Trump campaign, but otherwise that description is mostly bogus. The investigation has broadened now to determine which people and which organizations in Washington have spent years working secretly as de facto operatives on behalf of Russian government and business interests. The Podesta Group is chief among these. Quote, they are more focused on facilitators of Russian influence in this country, says our source, than they are on election collusion. The Podesta Group, he says, quote, is in their crosshairs. Well, that segment, which ran last week, provoked a snarling legal threat from Tony Podesta today, designed to shut us up. That's not going to happen, obviously, but we'll tell you a lot more about it in just a minute. Last week, we explained how Paul Manafort used a sham group called the European Center for a Modern Ukraine to lobby on behalf of pro-Russian forces in Ukraine. Those forces sought a number of changes to American policy, changes to the Republican platform, for example. Some of the changes are obviously contrary to America's interests and values. Among them, they wanted the U.S. government to support the imprisonment of one of the Ukraine president's political opponents. Shady does not begin to describe this operation. Even some of Tony Podesta's own employees thought the whole thing was disgusting. Well, today's indictment confirms our reporting on this. It describes the Center for Modern Ukraine as a fake organization, merely, quote, a mouthpiece for the Ukrainian president, Yanukovych. The indictment also confirms that the lobbying groups Manafort hired in Washington, including Tony Podesta's, knew perfectly well that the Center for the Modern Ukraine was fake when they signed on to represent it. According to the feds, Podesta's company was told explicitly they would be lobbying on behalf of the Ukrainian president. In November 2012, the indictment says, Manafort's business partner explicitly requested reports on lobbying activity by both those companies so that he could brief the president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, on what they were doing. It couldn't get dirtier. But despite apparently knowing they were acting as foreign agents, agents of a foreign government, the Podesta Group never registered as foreign agents. Failure to do that is against the law. In April 2012, the Podesta Group filed documents with Congress relating to its work with the Center for a Modern Ukraine. At the time, they falsely claimed that group was just a foreign NGO. The Podesta Group's filing contained a declaration by the Center for a Modern Ukraine that, quote, none of the activities of the center are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized in whole or in part by a government of a foreign country or a foreign political party. That declaration, false, was endorsed as true by Kimberly Fritz, now the CEO of the Podesta Group and a former Jeb Bush staffer. All apparently a lie. Moreover, according to today's indictment, the Podesta Group must have known it was a lie when they signed that document. Under the law, the firm should have immediately registered with the government, the U.S. government, under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Instead, the Podesta Group waited until spring 2017, this year, to do that, and then somehow applied the status retroactively. By that point, the Center for a Modern Ukraine had effectively been out of business for 3 years. It was a little late. Interestingly, the Podesta Group filed those late papers just weeks after media outlets began reporting that law enforcement was investigating Manafort's offshore bank accounts. Connection? But wait, why would Ukrainian interests hire Tony Podesta in the first place? Well, according to a former Podesta employee we spoke to over this weekend, even foreign officials in distant lands understood that Tony Podesta's brother was John Podesta, a key Clinton confidant. It was widely known the two brothers had dinner together every Sunday night. Quote, that's not something we hid from clients of the firm. They loved hearing that. Even a native Russian speaker could grasp the point of all of this. The Podesta Group was hired by Paul Manafort on behalf of foreign clients because the company was perceived to have a direct line to powerful politicians. John Podesta was Hillary's campaign chairman. Tony Podesta had been friends with Bill Clinton since the midterm elections of 1970. Influence peddling 101. How central were the Podesta's political connections to their profit model? Consider this. The firm's billing dropped dramatically almost immediately after Hillary Clinton lost the race for president. That tells you a lot. Mueller's investigators apparently have figured this out. Today, Tony Podesta resigned as head of his company. His excuse? Us. That's right, he blamed us. In his parting statement, Podesta said this, quote, it is impossible to run a public affairs firm while you're under attack by Fox News and the right-wing media. Well, Podesta isn't just complaining about us, though. He's threatening us. This afternoon, we got a letter from Jeff Garanther. He's a lawyer with Venable LLP, a big law firm here in D.C. The letter demands that this show, quote, immediately cease and desist disseminating false and misleading reports about Mr. Podesta and the Podesta Group. It demands we retract and delete all our prior reporting on the Podesta Group and warns that if we don't do this, quote, Mr. Podesta may pursue legal action, including for damages, in order to fully protect his rights. The letter doesn't stop there, though. It also warns us that we will face legal action under the Copyright Act merely for quoting from this letter publicly, as we just did. The most amusing line, though, is this one. Quote, Paul Manafort did not work with the Podesta Group in its representation of the European Center for a Modern Ukraine. That's what the lawyer's letters told us. Apparently that lawyer hasn't read the Manafort indictment yet. In paragraph 22 of that indictment, we read this, quote, at the direction of Manafort and Gates, companies A and B engaged in extensive lobbying.
Oh, that's just hilarious, guys.
Guys, did y'all hear that and read that or watch that? Oh, my goodness. I don't even know where to start. So real quick, let's just do a recap. They got Mueller comes out, indicts Manafort that's initially has, collectively has nothing to do with what the parameters of his special counsel appointment was, which was Russia, collusion, Trump campaign. Those words, that order, that, and that alone. And he goes and indicts Paul Manafort that had a brief stay in the Trump campaign early on. He was replaced early on because basically word of some of his shady dealings had gotten back to some of the other officials in the Trump campaign, and they said it just wasn't worth it ain't worth having him around. And good, exactly, and rightfully so. So he lets go of all of that. And now Mueller's using that as some kind of leverage to come back at him. But notice what Manafort's indicted for is exactly in the indictment. I can't believe he didn't subsequently and simultaneously indict the Podestas.
Yeah.
They were laundering money. They were lobbying on behalf of a foreign power and never registered as foreign agents. Lobbying
Until
for
3 years after it closed.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then only did so in the spring of this year, and then prorated or proactively rated it back to the date that it applied, and the business was out of business for 3 years.
Wow. Yeah.
What a joke all this is.
Well, when this all comes out, it's just going to be. He's got to get indicted too. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's unreal, and then the threats made. I don't think I've ever watched.
Love Tucker, man.
Tucker Carlson.
You
before.
got to. He's awesome.
Well, I don't have cable, so I don't get Fox News at all. But,
I'll send you. I'll send you all that stuff on Messenger, bro.
That is just hilarious. You better not say a word about it. Yeah, but we're saying it now. What are you going to do about it?
In copycat infractions, if you even quote from this indictment or from this warning, which we are, Tucker doesn't care. Bring it on. Why would they be threatening if they didn't have something? Why would John Podesta step aside from the Podesta group as soon as they found out that Manafort was fixing to be indicted?
Yeah, It's all peacocking. It's what it is. They're just trying to scare you away. Throw a bunch of lawsuit terms and money behind it, and to try to hide the truth of the matter. But the reality is, the truth is going to come out.
Yeah.
One way or another, whether it's Fox News and Tucker Carlson, whether it's an indictment or something else down the road, eventually, it will come out.
Yeah, and we got to let Mueller, the thing is, there's a lot of people on the right think that Mueller is kind of in and has the fix in for Trump, and that this is just a way of, but if he's going to be fair and balanced, he needs to come into this, and this is bigger than anybody ever anticipated, and I will still go back on the record and confirm to me, the Uranium One deal that is a part of this big onion, the Uranium One deal and the sale of 20% of America's uranium to the Russians through Uranium One, and of which the board or the investors of that company then in turn donate and offer about $145 million to the Clinton Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Within a few days of that or a couple of weeks, Bill Clinton gets a $500,000 speaking fee, which is double the fee that he's ever gotten in history. All of that within a few weeks or a month of this transaction. All of it hidden from Congress. It stinks to high heaven. And and Clinton, Hillary, and Eric Holder were 2 of the 9 that were part of the panel that had to approve this deal. This stinks to high heaven. If this would have been done in the Cold War era, they would have been throwing people off bridges. Who in their right mind would sell a portion of what is used to make nuclear weapons to our adversary, our number one strategic foe? Who does that? Right. Why ain't nobody asking that?
Yeah.
Why ain't nobody asking it?
Spies. And that's what they would be charged with.
Yeah.
And
but back to the real quick. So we got all this smoke and mirrors created from a fake dossier. Literally, imagine something being manufactured from thin air. It's sold around and talked about long enough to where entities start. If you say something long enough, you even start believing it. Yeah. So the DNC we have to have a reason why we lost. We got to have a reason why we lost. This dossier has to be the smoking gun. This dossier has to be the actual fact why we lost. Trump is what this dossier says. Trump is what these things state. There's no other excuse around. And they've sold this bill of lies for the last year plus. And it was the center of an investigation. It's going to come out that was the center of this investigation. Mm-hmm. Mueller's special appointment. Unmasking of Americans to then spy and dragnet other further individuals into this, all ties to this fake dossier, guys. It is an atrocity. Our own intelligence agencies have been weaponized against the American people.
Mm-hmm. And it, like we kept saying for the last number of weeks, all because of greed.
Yeah,
all because of greed and power.
Greed and pride and power.
All these things are happening.
What are you going to go to now, buddy? We got a bunch more. You pick one.
Phew, let's go to Virginia.
Let's do it. The Christ Church debacle, guys. The left is making us take away. There's movement to take away all our statues of our history, and we can't, we can't have anything referencing, Christianity or faith. And now this latest thing about
it just does not make sense. So we have this a church who has decided, Episcopalian church, who has decided to remove all images, all plaques, all references to
George Washington.
George Washington and Robert E. Lee. I know there's
yep.
a second person who was influential, and they're going to take it all down. He's the one that this was his congregation. This was his church, and so there were all these plaques that are put up throughout the church building, and because of this new era that I don't understand, that exists in America today of PC, political correctness, and because we're so easily offended about every little thing, and you're probably offended because I said that we're so easily offended. And
I need a timeout, Dave. I need a safe space.
A safe space.
Hold on, I think my safe space is right over here.
There's some pillows over there, and find yourself a blanket.
I'm back here in my safe space.
Get out of here.
Okay, no stuff.
But they're going to take down this history that is this church, and so I don't understand that. Now, should a church be so worried in following man and who attended there and their history and all about individual people?
Yeah.
I don't think so, right? I mean, Christ is the head of church. That's what we're taught in the book of Ephesians. It's Christ's church. It belongs to him. It is the bride of Christ.
Not the man. It's Christ.
Right. Absolutely. But to take these things down, it just doesn't.
We're gonna do a lead in on that. So this is Bill O'Reilly that basically done a piece, and we pulled this in. So it's going to be a couple of minutes here. So really good. So listen up, guys.
You like my music? I'm giving you my music, guys.
We're going to work on that.
I'm going to do some beatboxing for you while I transition.
All right, now here's a story that just makes me angry. I really have to say that. The Christ Church in Alexandria, Virginia, is taking down a memorial to George Washington that is inside the church. Why is it inside the church? Because George Washington attended services there. Church was founded in 1773, and the first president was a Virginian, and he went to that church. So they have a memorial inside the church saying he was there. And they have a memorial of Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general. Why do they have that memorial? Because his widow funded the church. Big time. A lot of money. Now they're taking those down. And the reason they're taking those down is because they are making some people feel unsafe. Unsafe.
I'm pausing that for a quick second.
Oh, okay. We back on?
So they feel, So they feel unsafe. It's making them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when sin starts making people uncomfortable?
Well, that would actually be nice.
Talking about it in a church. So are we going to stop talking about sin in church because it makes you uncomfortable? I'm going to keep playing this. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
You just be quiet there, Shane. Hold on.
In the, quote, worship space. PC madness. Now, I told you at the top, we have a new motto, take your country back. And I came up with that motto after reading this story. This is the last straw for me. George Washington is a hero. That's why I wrote Killing England. So you'll know what the man did to give us, all of us, including the members of the Christ Methodist Church in Alexandria, Virginia, freedom. All right, now here's a story that just makes me angry.
There you are.
No, we're on? Okay. Crazy stuff, guys. I mean, once again, safe spaces, offended by stuff. Dave had a good point there in the middle on the pause. How about, what are we going to do when sin makes us uncomfortable? You know what? That's what we need. Society needs for sin to make it uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
So that maybe then we actually start making right choices.
Right?
So, yeah, I mean, guys, we go on and on. You know where this movement started? All the Civil War monuments and individual plaques and stuff that, we've already went through this. Hey, it is our history. We can't remove it. It's history, and it reflects on history. Now, whether or not it needs to be out in the public eye, I mean, we could go into that. I even said it about a couple months ago. I said, hey, we could, what would we do? You don't want a bunch of stuff that's reflecting of the Civil War, which was, very offensive to a lot of people in a lot of ways. Okay, well, let's put it in a museum. But that doesn't mean get rid of it. You don't get rid of it. You can't. When we're going to start ignoring our own history, right, that is a dangerous slope.
Absolutely, it is.
Nazis did that, Dave.
Yeah.
World War II, erase history. They burned books. They tore down statues. They eliminated a people to the best of their ability from existence of this earth and the Jews. Mm-hmm. They tried their best to eliminate. It started with small steps. It started with people not feeling safe. It started with people feeling, betrayed. People feeling like that they were in a certain state of mind that they needed to have this done, and it gained momentum and fuel, and it rolled like a snowball. And
it continues to go.
Where's this going to end?
How long ago was it? I say it's been at least 10 years since this whole thing about the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments being on state property. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And then we had this whole one of these lies that keep getting perpetuated and continually told until we begin to believe it. All this separation of church and state.
Right. Which doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, right. And it's one of those lies that have been told over and over and over again. The idea of separating church and state was that the state could not declare a church
a specific
as
church.
Its right, and that's
not a removal of the church, and that's what it morphed into.
Exactly. And then so we started that. Oh, it's separation church and state, so we got to take these things down from the public eye on public property.
Right.
But then it's grown into now, not only Christianity being torn down, those images, but now our historical images being torn down now because of offenses. How much further is it going to be till it becomes, that cross you have on the outside of your church building? It is on your building, on your property, but
I drive by it every day and it offends me.
It offends me, so you got to take it down.
Yep.
All right, and we've seen some places...
Atheists fight that every day.
Yes, and we've seen some of them, because of that ACLU, threatening lawsuits, they taking them down. How soon is it going to be to that church building? I know what happens in that church building, and you're worshiping a God that doesn't exist.
And I don't believe in that, so
you need to get rid of that church building.
You know what the weapon that you just described that actually makes more institutions, churches, individuals succumb to these frivolous type attacks and lawsuits to remove religious relics and religious mentionings and faith-based stuff. You know what the number one weapon of the left is for that and these individuals that actually attack? It's lawsuits. If you've got deeper pockets than me, you win.
Yeah.
If you can drag me through court and force me to stand up against that and exhaust and shut down my business, force me to shut my business down to fight it, I can't afford to fight it, guess what I end up doing? I end up conceding. I end up giving in, and I end up losing. And that's exactly what they do. If I've got a deeper pocketbook than you, I win, you lose. If you do, you win, I lose. And that's exactly what they do. Yep. And, let's drag you through them. They don't have to basically win on merit. At some point, you run out of money. You can't fight it legally. You're done.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It is. It is. And all just because of money, not because of the reality of things, and not because the truth is you just need to really, if it bothers you that much, look away.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Don't be so cotton candy wimpified
Yeah.
that you can't deal with it.
Right. See how this works, though? Like, as conservative Christians, we can't stand up for our faith, invoke our faith. We can't display our faith without risking persecution, without risking lawsuit. But
Maybe it's
if
needed.
but if I'm a business owner and I bake cakes, let's go this direction. We got it coming and going, Dave. As conservative Christians, they got us on both sides. They got us bracketed. We can't declare our faith. We can't defend our faith. We can't stand up or show our faith. And if we're in a business and we want to refuse the right to serve have the right to refuse service to anybody based on our own Christian values, we can't do that without further persecution and suit, i.e., the bakery, the family-owned business that was sued by the gay couple, or from the because they wouldn't do the cake.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. But then the hypocrisy of the matter is, when the roles are reversed and Christians are frequenting an atheistic homosexual business, and maybe they're having Bible studies or something inside there. We played a video a couple weeks ago of the fact
coffee shop.
the coffee shop out in Seattle, where the people
Horrible.
were just putting up posters outside
About
on
abortion.
the street about abortion, and then they were just getting in, warming up, having a cup of coffee at this business who was a man who is he says he was a Catholic,
But he's gay.
but he's a homosexual,
Living openly
and
as a gay man.
just threatened them
Wow.
horribly.
Yeah.
Threatened them
Oh,
until
and
until they left.
And blasphemed against
but that's
about
not wrong.
Christ, and
You know,
said he would,
The
just,
ACLU is not going to step into that
Yeah.
coffee shop and say, you can't do that.
No.
You can't refuse them service just because they're Christian. But if the roles are reversed,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely, you're going to be sued because you can't refuse.
Wow. Dropped
And-
F-bombs
and you know
about
what?
Christ, dropped F-bombs
Oh,
about being gay and
yeah.
doing bad things to people. And I mean, this guy
Horrible.
was horrible, guys. I suggest you look it up. What was it even about? It was just type in
Seattle coffee shop,
Seattle coffee shop.
abortion or
abortion-
homosexual, and
yeah.
it should come
It's
up.
horrible, guys. It is very graphic. So I mean, we
And
definitely
maybe-
don't want you seeing something that's really bad,
Maybe, I know we got like 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something that is good for
Yeah.
us who are Christians.
Yeah.
Because when we've been so lukewarm at the church at Laodicea.
Yeah.
We've been so lukewarm. We've been so apathetic. We've been so, whatever, for too many years. And maybe now that our back is against the wall, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, that, we begin to now live out, act out, and teach out our faith.
Right.
And have our faith strengthened.
Right.
To live more and to do more of what Christ has called us to do.
I'm with that, Dave, 100%. And guys, as we're getting closer to wrapping up, we're going to go ahead and throw out some thanks. Lauren, thanks for being here. Tim Skills, my daughter Cheyenne, joined us earlier. Don't know who else was on there. Let's see who else is on there.
I don't know. No, it just shows me current people who are chatting.
So anybody and everybody that joined us today, hey, thanks so much. We appreciate you. We do this show for our viewers, our subscribers. Please promote us. Please subscribe to us and follow us and like us. Share us. Tell other people about the content here. We try to show relevance with daily factual political views and insight. We also put our stamp of conservatism and our faith alongside and with those things, guys, because like Dave said, there is no separation of church and state. We should be living our Christian values every day in everything that we say and everything that we do. Doesn't mean that we're perfect, but it means that we are definitely striving to be that way, Christ-like. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody for being here today. Shoot us. Yeah, go ahead and do some plugs here.
We appreciate you, and thanks for chatting in. And don't forget, if you've got questions, to send them an email, to send us an email at truthhourradio@gmail.com. We're here every Thursday at 11 a.m.
YouTube.
On YouTube, Eastern Standard Time.
The Truth Hour Radio.
Truth Hour Radio. We've got Facebook. You can find us there on Facebook, Truth Hour Radio, as well. Truthhourradio@gmail.com. And if you're interested, we have a topical and a textual Bible study on Wednesdays and Thursdays with twitch.tv/Fuzzy Spartan.
Fuzzy, he's great. Hey, and what are you coming in last second there, Aaron? Two seconds left in the fourth quarter. It's 4th down and 10 from the 50, bro.
Nah, he's been.
We got to
here
go
all
for
day.
a Hail Mary. Come on, man.
He's been listening all day.
You can't be a silent listener on this program. It's against the law, bro. We need to hear from you.
Hey,
but good seeing you. And we will be back again in a week, guys. Look forward to another jam-packed session with the week's up-to-date politics. I will be doing my homework. I will be studying up. I will be bringing the truth. We will bring you some truth and insight. And Dave's really great at sprinkling in, bringing in Scripture and great awesomeness. I love everything about this. I wish I could do this for a living.
hey, appreciate you guys.
Love
Take
you
care.
guys.
Till next week.
Bye.